electrifying performances. And now, the whole world enjoys it together.
President Lee Jae-myung met his U.S. counterpart President Donald Trump on the sidelines of the NATO summit in Turkey and discussed follow-up measures on military shipbuilding cooperation. Lee is now in Mongolia for a state visit, the final stop of his two-leg trip. The IMF has upgraded this year's growth forecast for Korea to 2.6% and 2.5% for 2027. It says strong demand for semiconductors helped offset the negative impact of the Middle East conflict. The United States has carried out another round of strikes on Iran, raising questions about what will happen next. In response, Tehran apparently fired back at 3 Gulf Arab states, prompting warnings in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar. Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. President Lee Jae-myung met his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump on the sidelines of the NATO summit in Ankara and discussed follow-ups to Trump's recent request for cooperation on Navy shipbuilding. He also held talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and discussed the issue of North Korean prisoners of war. Our Youn Yuh-jung starts us off.
3 weeks after their last encounter at the G7 summit in France, the leaders of South Korea and the U.S. have met again, this time at an official dinner in Turkey for this year's NATO gathering. According to the Blue House, Presidents Lee Jae-myung and Donald Trump had a follow-up discussion on military shipbuilding cooperation, which President Trump had requested 3 weeks ago.
이번에도 역시 미국 군함 열척을 빠르게 건조해 줄 수 있겠느냐? 물론 거기에 대해서 당연히 가능하고 최선을 다하겠다고 답해 드렸습니다.
Lee said he was willing to cooperate as much as possible and highlighted South Korea's excellent shipbuilding capability. The leaders have agreed to continue talks at a working level on what's been dubbed the Make America Shipbuilding Great Again project. The Blue House added that Trump has reminded Lee of his recent invitation to play golf, and the president's trip to the U.S. will be arranged at an opportune time. President Lee also sat down with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for the first time, where they highlighted the need for cooperation for peace and recovery in Ukraine. South Korea announced on Tuesday a $100 million assistance pledge for the war-torn nation. When it comes to North Korea's military support for Russia, the leaders agreed to resolve the issue of North Korean POWs in accordance with international law and under humanitarian principles by respecting the free will of the captured. The South Korean president also held back-to-back meetings with Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre and Romanian President Nicos Jordan, looking for greater cooperation in the defense industry and renewable energy.
지금 현재 국제 정세가 매우 불안정한 상태여서 이런 때일수록 국가 간 협력과 교류가 매우 중요하다고 생각합니다.
During Tuesday's official dinner in Ankara, President Lee met with several other foreign leaders, including Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, for talks on people-to-people exchanges, and the Netherlands Prime Minister Rob Jetten for talks on energy cooperation. Youn Yuh-jung, Arirang News.
And President Lee Jae-myung has now arrived in Mongolia for a state visit, the final stop of his two-leg trip. Korea's presidential jet, which departed from Turkey, landed at Genghis Khan International Airport on Thursday morning. Later today, he will hold his first summit with the Mongolian president in Ulaanbaatar. Following the talks, the two leaders are expected to adopt a joint declaration outlining ways to deepen the Korea-Mongolia strategic partnership. This is the first state visit to Mongolia by a Korean president in 15 years. And as President Lee embarks upon his visit to Mongolia, the country's ambassador to Seoul says the two countries are looking to deepen cooperation in critical minerals, healthcare, and regional security. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young has more.
Korea and Mongolia are seeking to transform that strategic partnership into concrete cooperation in critical minerals, healthcare, and regional security. President Lee Jae-myung begins a state visit to the country on Thursday, marking a significant moment in bilateral relations, according to Mongolia's top envoy in Seoul.
This state visit takes place after 15 years, when former President Youn Yuh-jung has paid also a state visit in 2011. So my country is really focusing on to get a very significant outcome during the state visit, and we especially focusing on to get very significant feedbacks and also strengthening cooperation in trade, investment, digital infrastructure, health sectors, and many other sectors.
Critical minerals are expected to top the agenda. The two governments signed an MOU to establish a joint rare earth research centre in 2023, before officially launching a rare metals cooperation centre in Ulaanbaatar last December.
That's why the state visit will push us to deepen our cooperation in critical minerals, more creating opportunities, not only exploring the natural resources, and also we are looking for building up industries for processing of the mineral resources to add to produce value-added products, which can be used for the Korean market and economy.
Mongolia is also seeking greater Korean investment in construction, infrastructure, digital services and healthcare. The ambassador says beyond those complementary strengths, there's a broader middle power partnership. Bordered by Russia and China, Mongolia's third neighbour policy seeks to deepen cooperation with partners beyond its two immediate neighbours.
Korea plays important role. Korea has their own places in our foreign policy, especially in a third neighbor policy, and we always think Korea is our closest partner, and also Korea is the partner with our shared values, including democracy, the rule of law, human rights.
It is also one of the few countries to maintain diplomatic ties with both Koreas, and has hosted the Ulaanbaatar Dialogue on Northeast Asian Security since 2014.
Since 1990, Mongolia has implementing open, transparent, and multipolar foreign policy. In 1992, Mongolia has declared its own policy, which we call nuclear weapon-free status. This policy was declared by our former president, Ochurbat, at the UN General Assembly. So since that time, the Mongolia is really keen playing, especially in this region, to maintain peace and security.
The Blue House says the leaders are expected to present a shared vision for a golden era of bilateral ties, spotlighting critical minerals, food security, healthcare, science and technology, and peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. Youn Yuh-jung, Arirang News.
Over in the Middle East, tensions are rising again after the U.S. carried out another round of strikes on Iran on Wednesday. Following the strikes, countries across the Gulf, including Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar, issued safety alerts amid what appears to be Iranian retaliation. Our Chung Il-im has more.
The United States carried out another round of military strikes on Iran on Wednesday, just hours after President Donald Trump declared that recent Iranian attacks on commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz had effectively ended the ceasefire between the two countries. According to U.S. military officials, the strikes were aimed at further degrading Iran's ability to threaten freedom of navigation through the strategic waterway. Iranian state media reported explosions in several locations, including the southern port cities of Bandar Abbas and Sharik, as well as Bushehr, the site of a nuclear power plant complex. The latest operation comes a day after U.S. forces targeted Iranian military sites and port facilities in response to Tehran's attacks on several merchant ships off the coast of Oman. Despite the latest military action, President Trump said he does not believe the situation will develop into a full-scale war.
No, I don't think it's going to start again. I think it's going to go very quickly. They hit a couple of ships, and so we hit them much harder.
Meanwhile, countries across the Gulf have been put on alert following the strikes. Warnings were issued in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar, with authorities urging residents to take precautions. Kuwait's defense ministry said its air defenses had intercepted missiles and drones without giving details on targets or damage. Bahrain's interior ministry also issued a similar alert, though it did not say whether an attack from Iran had taken place. Countries across the Gulf are now bracing for possible attacks while stressing they're not part of the conflict. 정혜림, Arirang News.
The global AI boom has given Korea's economy a boost, according to the IMF, as it raised the country's expected growth rate in 2026 to 2.6% from previous 1.9%, saying that the chip exports completely offset the Middle East situation, despite the nation's reliance on the region for energy. Our Kim Do-yeon has the details.
The International Monetary Fund has sharply upgraded its 2026 economic growth forecast for Korea to 2.6%. This is a 0.7 percentage point increase from the April estimate. The adjustment closely tracks recent revisions by the Bank of Korea and the OECD, which both raised their growth forecast to 2.6%. According to the IMF's July World Economic Outlook update released on Wednesday, in Korea, growth is expected to rise to 2.6% in 2026 and 2.5% in 2027, buoyed by strong external demand for semiconductors, which dominates the negative impact of the war. With these revisions, Korea's growth trajectory stands as the highest among advanced economies for 2026 and 2027. The report highlighted a remarkable performance in the first quarter of the year. The IMF noted that Korea surprised with a 7.5% growth rate in the first quarter, more than 4 times the 1.8% projected in April, powered primarily by a semiconductor and AI hardware export boom. The agency categorized the country as one of the top 4 net exporters of artificial intelligence hardware globally. In contrast to Korea's upward momentum, the global economic outlook for 2026 was downgraded by 0.1 percentage points to 3.0%. The IMF observed that national growth paths are diverging sharply based on 2 conflicting forces: negative supply shocks from the Middle East war and positive technology shocks from the AI value chain. While the United States held steady at 2.3%, high energy costs dragged down forecasts for the Eurozone to 0.9% and Japan to 0.6%. China's forecast rose to 4.6% on high-tech manufacturing, while the Middle East and Central Asia saw a severe cut down to 0.7% due to energy export disruptions. The IMF also raised its global inflation forecast to 4.7%, urging central banks to prioritize price stability while warning of potential macro-financial instability from sudden shifts in AI market expectations. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
SK Group Chairman Tae-won is heading to the United States to attend a ceremony to mark SK hynix American Depository Receipts listing on the NASDAQ. The opening bell event will take place in New York on Friday morning local time. During his visit, Chey is expected to meet with global investors to highlight the company's competitiveness in AI memory and share mid to long-term investment plans. Industry watchers say the NASDAQ debut will serve as a turning point for SK hynix to be recognized as a core global AI infrastructure company. The public offering has already drawn massive interest, with over 7 times more subscriptions than available shares. SK hynix will begin trading on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol SKHY. During RIMPAC, the world's largest international maritime exercise taking place around the Hawaiian Islands, the P-8 Poseidon aircraft's advanced anti-submarine warfare capabilities were showcased in a joint drill between South Korea and the United States. Our Kim Bo-kyung files this report from Honolulu.
Finding a submarine in the vast ocean is like finding a needle in a haystack. That is what the P-8 Poseidon does, dubbed a silent submarine killer, engaging mainly in anti-submarine warfare. During the ongoing Rim of the Pacific 2026, the ROK and U.S. Navy jointly conducted P-8 operations to enhance interoperability and operational capabilities with a simulated submarine target.
I'm on board the P&A
Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft capable of carrying around 120 sonobuoys. This marks the very first time the media has been given access to capture the Poseidon carrying out an operational mission. In less than 30 minutes after the search began, the P-8 had successfully detected and tracked the target. As the submarine failed to surface following a warning signal, the P-8 descended to about 1,000 feet above the ocean and simulated dropping an Mk-54 lightweight torpedo from its weapons bay. Proving itself as the most capable maritime patrol aircraft in the world, P-8 boasts roughly twice the acoustic capability of the P-3 and about 1.5 times more sonobuoys. The U.S. captain also points out the importance of seamless data sharing between the two allies, while the ROK Navy vowed firm readiness to deal with any future threat with the U.S.
So that's really the goal when we're here at RIMPAC, is to build those connections, because it is important for those turnover times that we can execute and do it efficiently, properly, and professionally.
With world-class maritime patrol aircraft and advanced tactical capabilities, we will remain fully prepared to respond rapidly to any threat in the maritime domain.
While highlighting P-8's advanced capabilities, the two allies have highlighted the importance of allied cooperation during the RIMPAC period. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Honolulu.
Veteran Korean actress Youn Yuh-jung has been nominated for the 78th Primetime Emmy Awards, earning enough for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Limited or Anthology Series or Movie for her role as Chairman Park in Season 2 of the Netflix series Beef. Yoon's special appearance alongside Song Kang-ho drew praise and an Emmy win to add to her Academy Awards Best Supporting Actress victory for Minari, and it would make her one of the few actors to win top honors in both film and television. So far, Lee Jung-jae remains the only Korean Emmy winner for Squid Game. The 78th Emmy Awards will be held on September 14th at the Peacock Theater in Los Angeles.
This is the world now. President Donald Trump announced Wednesday that the United States would permit Ukraine a license to manufacture Patriot missile interceptors domestically, marking a significant shift in military support. Trump made the announcement during a meeting with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky at the NATO summit in Ankara without providing further details. The move represents a departure from previous tension between the two leaders, which included Trump calling Zelensky, quote, ungrateful. Ukrainian officials welcomed the announcement as an important step towards strengthening the country's air defense capabilities. Trump said he would speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin later Wednesday and described both leaders as difficult negotiating partners in ending the war. China will allow some domestic technology companies to purchase a limited number of NVIDIA's H200 processors, signaling eased restrictions on importing American semiconductor technology. Companies including Alibaba, ByteDance, and DeepSeek have received notification of the new purchasing permissions. Businesses must specify the quantities needed and provide justification to receive approval. The decision comes months after Washington cleared the sale domestically, with Beijing previously citing security concerns and worries about undermining homegrown chip development. The total number of processors approved for purchase remains under discussion, with estimates suggesting fewer than 200,000 units. In Bangladesh, a landslide struck a girls' school inside a refugee camp, killing 7 students and 1 teacher. The landslide buried the school in the coastal city of Cox's Bazar on Wednesday. 5 other children were rescued and taken to hospitals for treatment. Monsoon rains have battered the region since Sunday, triggering landslides across the area. More than 1 million Rohingya refugees live in the settlement, the world's largest refugee camp. Authorities have issued warnings for continued flooding and landslides as more rain is forecast for the coming days. Justin Bieber will join Madonna, Shakira, and BTS as performers for the World Cup final halftime show on July 19th in New York. The 11-minute performance is the tournament's first Super Bowl-style entertainment segment. The World Cup quarterfinals continue this week with 8 teams remaining, but all 3 host nations were eliminated in earlier rounds. Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
The monsoon has already caused widespread impact across Korea, with cases of property damage reported nationwide. The Chungcheongdo provinces had the toughest conditions this morning, and it will continue to lash down through tomorrow. Chungcheongdo and Jeollado provinces could see up to 200 millimeters of downpours. The capital area Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-Bukdo province could receive up to 150 millimeters. In fact, a heavy rain warning has been issued for Chungcheongdo and a heavy rain advisory for many of the western regions. So please stay safe. Meanwhile, the southeast regions are still under a heat wave advisory. And this afternoon, Daegu will be getting up to 33 degrees Celsius. Seoul and Daejeon will make it to 27 degrees. Heavy rain, strong winds, and localized flooding remain the biggest concerns through tomorrow morning. So if you're traveling today, please keep up with the latest weather updates. That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.